Welcome back. Members of the KwaZulu-Natal government will visit various schools across the province today to inspect the rollout of the school nutrition program. Now, thousands of school children were left without meals at school over the past few weeks when the KZN government opted to use one company to implement the program. Newzroom Afrika's Corinda Jagmahan is tracking that story for us this morning. Corinda, it's had such a devastating impact, and today is a good day to see how implementation is going, given that the department has, as I understand it, decided to go back to the original way that the school nutrition program was being handled.
Yes, Michelle, good morning to you. Now, the department has reverted to the old format of implementing the system. So instead of using one service provider, they're going to be using several service providers across KZN's 10 districts to supply and deliver food. Now, the challenges arose when one company was given this 2.1 billion rand tender to supply food to KZN schools. This is Casino Retail. But last month, when schools opened, many schools were left without food and some schools received rotten food. Now, despite this, Casino Retail, of course, we know, has since withdrawn from the contract they had with the KZN government, but they say they want to be paid out for services they said that they provided. So that matter now is under investigation. A probe has been ordered by the KZN Premier, who's going to be in the Pinetown district today, and we're going to speak to her to ask about this probe and what's going to happen going forward, and why Casino Retail was given this billion rand tender. Now, of course, at the core of this issue, Michelle, is the fact that poverty and unemployment is only rising countrywide. And across KwaZulu-Natal's rural areas especially, this meal that's provided through the school nutrition program is often the only meal that a child has for the day. And if they go without that meal, then they're left hungry while trying to focus at school. So, of course, this program under scrutiny for an important reason, because it looks at the fact that it speaks to poverty rising countrywide and families that are trying to make ends meet. So indeed, we're going to be asking questions about that probe. Her visit will start at 9 o'clock. I'll give you an update with her at that time.
Corinda, before we let you go, so is she doing a random sampling of the schools in the province? That surely should be the aim, right? To see just a random test of whether the nutrition program is working on this Tuesday morning.
Indeed. So certain schools have been selected for this visit. It is indeed, from what we understand, a random visit where they'll head to the school and ensure that the school nutrition program and the food that is supposed to be supplied to the school has arrived today. She's not the only government representative that will be doing a visit. The Education MEC will be in Ladysmith at a school there doing the same visit, and the government representative responsible for business and government, so that's MEC Siko Kilomuka, will be in the Umgungundlovu district, so that's near the Pietermaritzburg area, also doing the same visit. Really, we're seeing now these government officials go to these three schools to perhaps present themselves and ensure that the program is actually being implemented. But over and above that, they must also receive a report from KZN's over 5,000 schools to ensure that each and every school that has been given the opportunity to have this program, to have food provided for the children there, they actually receive this food. So perhaps by midday today, we'll actually have a count of how many schools have received their food and whether or not this program is being implemented successfully as it should be for the children.
Many of these children depending on the nutrition program for their only meal of the day. Corinda Jagmahan will touch base with you again as that oversight visit gets underway in KZN this morning. But let's stay with the story now. Bring in the South African Human Rights Commission. Advocate Comm Gaum joins us via our video link this morning. Advocate Gaum, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming onto the program. Such an important story, the KZN school nutrition program, and bizarre really that the department somehow chose to change how it was being rolled out by using one service provider in a province that has the highest number of schools.
Good morning. Yes, good morning, Michelle, and to the viewers as well. Yes, this should have been prevented by the Department of Education in KwaZulu-Natal. The National School Nutrition Program is actually one of the great successes of the Department of Basic Education. Not only, as you indicated earlier and you reported, because it's often the only meal a child receives a day, but that it has also become an integral part of the right to a basic education and the realization of that right as such. Because it is quite clear, and all evidence shows that proper learning cannot really take place in the absence of of a child being fed. So this should not have happened, and we will now see if it has been corrected, and if children do receive their meals as is supposed to be the case, but this should really have been prevented.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
actually amounts to the violation of the right to a basic education as such.
Yeah, absolutely. There were reports last week, Advocate Gaum, of children having to go home because they were sitting in class and they were hungry and they were just unable to focus on any schoolwork.
No, absolutely. All research, and I think that is also why this program was put in place in the first instance, shows very clearly that proper teaching and learning cannot take place when children are hungry. And that is exactly why what happened, what you indicated now, that some of the children actually had to go home in the absence of being properly fed, because under those circumstances, it often becomes meaningless to actually be at school. So this is a very serious matter. As I say, it should not have happened, and the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Education should make very sure that it doesn't happen again.
So, Advocate Gaum, you've talked about the school nutrition program and the fact that it is so intrinsically linked to the right to a basic education, right? It's impossible. They go hand in hand. These two rights, education and being able to have a meal as part of your day. And sometimes it's the only meal that these children do have, right? It's the one meal that they have in a day as well. So what's the protection that's provided legally, Advocate Gaum, around the school nutrition program?
Well, I am quite sure that in today's terms, when the school nutrition program is not properly rolled out at a school, that basically amounts to a violation of the right to a basic education. And under those circumstances, a court could even, or the Human Rights Commission could have been approached then to also make sure that this is being addressed. It now appears that it has been addressed, and fortunately, it appears that the Department of Education, KZN, did see this as a very serious situation and a very serious breach of human rights. And we will also, from our side, make sure that schools are monitored to make sure that the program has been put in place again to the extent that all schools are being serviced.
It will surely raise questions as well around the tender processes that went into changing service providers, as was done a couple of weeks ago, and the oversight that should have been exercised when that tender process was changed.
No, absolutely. There were clearly shortcomings in that regard as well, and one wouldn't know whether this was an effort to actually try and improve the system, but clearly it had the opposite effect, and therefore it doesn't appear that the department has done enough to make sure, in terms of oversight and so on, that delivery could still take place. One shouldn't take these risks at all, and I think this has been a risk that was taken to make amendments that you did not know would actually have the necessary effect. It actually had the opposite effect in terms of non-delivery of food to learners.
Yeah, it's such an important story, and one that we are tracking closely, impacting millions of learners. That was according to numbers from some years ago the National School Nutrition Program. Advocate Andre Gaum, let me thank you for your time this morning. Human Rights Commissioner Andre Gaum joining us as we continue to track the story. Karunda Jagmohan is our reporter covering the visit by the KZN Premier and her MECs. They're doing a randomized sampling of schools in the province just to get a sense of the success of the rolling out of the school nutrition program, given what unfolded at the start of the second term. Let's really hope that they do get their ducks in a row. 26 minutes after 7 o'clock this morning, the Life is City Mayor